Welcome to Everything CPA and Private Equity, where we unpack the evolving relationship between accounting firms, private equity, and other strategics. I'm David Wolfskehl, a partner at Whitman Transition Advisors.
And I'm Phil Whitman, CEO of Whitman Transition Advisors. And we've chatted with more than 150 private equity groups. We've actually closed over 40 transactions with those private equity groups. And we're bringing you firsthand insights from the front lines.
And whether you're exploring your first deal, putting your toe in the water, refining your strategy, we're here to guide you with real stories, expert advice, actionable takeaways. Let's dive in. Welcome, everybody. So excited today for another episode of Everything CPA and Private Equity. And today we have Nish and David from Ascend, people who we've partnered with, and really people who are at the forefront of PE and the new strategics within the marketplace in the CPA world. So appreciative of your time and effort to be on with us today. So thank you.
Thanks, David and
Thanks
Phil.
for having
Great.
us.
Yeah, really fun to be here.
And Phil, why don't you do a quick intro of our guest? I know you've worked very closely with them, so please.
Yeah, thanks so much, David, and welcome, Nish and David. It's such a pleasure to have both of you here. As I sit here, it's kind of an amazing, they say that life is a journey and it's never a straight line. And when I first met David Wurtzbacher, I was very excited because, here was a young guy who very quickly studied our industry and really became quite expert at it. As a matter of fact, I often joke, as a top 100 most influential person in accounting, it only took me being in business about 14 years until I made that list. David here, congratulations, made that list. He wasn't even in the industry for a year, and they've built something so amazing at Ascend. And he repeated again, second year in a row. And I am just so excited not only when I hear the word Ascend, but, what we've done with them, what we're going to do with them in the future. And then, lo and behold, he introduces me to Nish, who's an old hometown Jersey guy, just like me. And, we really hit it off. And, I just think it's incredible, the model that they've built. And we're going to dig in and have them do some sharing because, going from zero 2 years ago to a top 100 firm in a year. And I don't know, what do you guys like, a top 20 firm, top 25 firm where you are now?
I think
you'll
30.
dig into all.
I think 30.
Top 30 firm, 400 million in revenue. I'm not going to steal your thunder, but we've got lots of questions for you guys because, there's so many firms out there. And obviously, private equity comes with, especially in the CPA firm arena, they all have clients who tell horror stories of deals that they did with private equity. I got some people telling me, I'll post something on LinkedIn and they'll post something and they'll say, oh, this is a bubble. Wait until the bubble bursts. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. And I'd love for you to share because, your vision and everything that you've done. But how is the way private equity has approached the public accounting arena so different than the fears that people come to the table with about private equity as a whole?
Well, thanks for the kind introduction, Phil. You really have become a friend in the industry to me, and you were very kind when I knew nothing to spend time with me and help me get up to speed on the industry, what matters to CPAs. And I just am so thankful for WTA and for you personally, Phil. So private equity, you really can't generalize in either direction. I think the CPA community in general, is quick to generalize private equity as bad. And frankly, I think private equity has earned that reputation. And so you also cannot say in a blanket statement that private equity is good. Neither of those three really are true. The answer is somewhere in the middle. And what you have to dig into is, who is this? Who are the people behind this private equity firm, and why do they work in private equity, and for how long will they do it, and how do they want to create equity value, and what is the purpose of it all? And I just think it's really important for anyone considering private equity to really get deep into the answers to those questions, because the number one reason why a consolidator exists, a private equity backed consolidator exists in any industry, including in public accounting, is that the private equity firm wanted it to exist. And that is not a good enough reason. It has to exist because the consolidation makes everybody better off. And it has to be built with that intent in mind for it to work in the long run, in our opinion. And on the face of it, there are some incompatibilities between private equity and CPA firms. In the first place, this is an industry built on trust and relationships, and those take time. Private equity doesn't have time. They got to get in and out. That's just a fact of life. Most of them will say they hold their investments for 5 years. The data says they hold it for 3. There are people that say they hold for longer and will hold for longer. So that would obviously help. The second reason is that we really believe that success in this business over the long run also requires generosity, meaning if we're going to bring something to the table to help you grow, it's not us really that's doing that and getting the results. It's you that's doing that and getting the results. And so we are going to share back with you so that your life gets better. There's more financial reward for you. You enjoy your career more, and everybody wins. Not every private equity firm really wants to be generous either, because there's sort of like hey, if I give it to you, I can't give it to myself sort of view. So, there are some good reasons to be skeptical of private equity, but it is certainly not like, oh, it's all bad. This is the death of public accounting. How could we possibly sell out to these guys? It's way more nuanced than that.
And, Nish, David talked about better off. And I know that you've had great success with firms who have been part of your platform. And certainly you've had, M&A growth, but you've also had organic growth. So why don't you share a little bit about firms that become part of you, are better off?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question, David. I think there are a few different reasons that firms choose to take on a partner and choose to take on private equity capital. But, I think there's really one reason that firms choose to partner with us. So I'll just go through them. You hear a lot about firms that their succession planning back is against a wall, right? And so there's an older generation of partners that's trying to grab the bag, so to speak, and take advantage of liquidity and take advantage of the market price while they can and while the sector is hot. Just to name it, that, we have 17 firms under our belt, 400 million of revenue. Not a single one of those firms came to us from that circumstance. I think there is another group of firms out there where maybe their back is not exactly against the wall, but their footing is a little bit wobbly. So it's the posture is very much, what if I could have my cake and eat it too, right? I get liquidity today. That liquidity today is attractive, but 3-5 years from now, there might be this proverbial second bite at the apple. The sum of those two things could be a very good thing for me. It could be a very good thing for my partnership. Not that I disagree with that financial logic, but that is also not the reason that firms are choosing to join Ascend. They're not thinking of it in sort of a 5 to 7 year commitment. The firms that we're targeting and the firms that are most attracted to us, they're kind of like taking stock of the environment. They're noticing that as consolidation is taking place in the industry, there is a bigger and bigger opportunity to serve mid-market clients, so high net worth individuals, closely held entities, clients that are sort of falling out of larger firms as those larger firms get bigger and bigger and take on public company work. They're also noticing that as that sort of like upper market consolidation takes place, these mid-market firms have a great opportunity to attract talent, right? People that are sort of disenfranchised with working at a top 20 firm and like the ability to serve mid-market clients and do it in a highly personalized way. And so they're looking at all of this raw material for growth and they're saying, man, how awesome would it be if we could take advantage of this? But we as a business don't necessarily have the systems or the technology or the global fulfillment or the ability to recruit great candidates on demand to make that growth happen quickly and to share in the reward generously. And what David and I and our team at Ascend have spent the last 2 years doing is building an infrastructure that allows exactly those types of firms to sort of plug in, skip the line, and take advantage of that growth ambition that surrounds them. So those 17 firms, they're in great cities across the country. They're led by really talented and forward-thinking leaders. Their bench has a bench. They often have, a couple generations of young partners whose careers they're really excited about. And we're really excited about their careers too.
David, I just want to throw something in because David mentioned something and Nish mentioned something, and it comes up in every conversation that I have with a CPA firm. And so you talked about those folks with their back up against the wall, and frequently in a CPA firm, we've got the older generation, maybe the founders in the firm and the founder generation. And then you got younger partners. And the biggest thing that people say is, well, it's not good for the younger folks. It's not good for the younger folks. The older folks, they're going to take all the money. They're going to take all the rollover equity. And what does it mean for me? I'm never going to be the guy that's going to be able to make the kind of money that the older guys made. And I believe that you guys solve for that in a really, really wonderful fashion. So why don't you talk about how is this good for the younger guy, the younger up and comer, the newly minted partner that, says, hey, wait, I thought it's my turn to take, the reins and the bull by the horn.
Yeah, let me take that, and then David should add to it. But I'll kind of describe the rock and the hard place that I think today's younger generation in public accounting is up against. So on one hand, the rock is the partnership model as an economic ownership mechanism is being called into question. And what I mean by that is, today's partners could monetize their ownership of their public accounting firm at 50 or 100% more than what that monetization would look like if they decided to shift ownership from one generation to the next generation inside of the partnership model. And what that's doing is forcing the conversation that, hey, if we are not going to sell to private equity or we are not going to merge up, shouldn't we reflect market pricing in our partnership agreement so that we're not leaving money on the table and that young generation doesn't sell out from underneath us just a year later after we retire, right? So if you're that young partner, you're looking at that and you're saying, oh boy, my cost of owning my firm through the partnership model is likely to go up. As that's happening, the industry is kind of underneath some really important secular challenges, right? The labor shortfall, if you forecast it over a long period of time, and then you forecast demand on top of it, you sort of realize the industry needs to get 2 to 3 times more productive over the next 10 years. Doing that is not going to be free or cheap. And so if I'm a young partner, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, it costs me more to buy ownership. And the second I buy that ownership, I have to make some serious investments into the business just to keep it afloat. So that's the rock, right? Price of ownership is going up. And then my need to invest in the business is also going up right on the other side of that. The hard place is you can take private equity money, but David's point is exactly right, that if you choose to do that, and even if that private equity firm shares in ownership, you don't know for what length of time you're going to be able to work with that partner. And as that partner monetizes to the next and the next and the next over a 10 or 20-year period that you would consider to be your career and your prime, you're taking a lot of risk associated with that. And so, in the middle, I think the solution that Ascend is trying to solve is we share in ownership very generously. We are building a business that has an enduring runway because we are not private equity. We exist to sort of manage the relationship with private equity. And some of those investments that we were talking about, we're kind of doing that at the holding company level and doing it in a big way.
I love the description of the rock and a hard place. And just to add, first of all, when I hear somebody ask, how is this good for my young people, I love getting that question. It says a lot about the people who are asking it, that they care about their young people. And that's a really good sign. I'd much rather be asked this question than someone just sweep it under the rug and not ask. So I love the question, but there is to me, kind of a funny presumption that what we could offer can't be as good as what we're offering. What's on the table now and the status quo is really just not that attractive in any way, in my opinion. And so I think I really love getting the question, but I think that the answer is so good for young people. Financially, young people associated with the right company, that the right values and the right resources are going to do way, way, way better financially than the senior partners who are selling the firm today. And we don't have time to get into all that and show you the modeling and all this stuff, but it is true. Outside, there's a lot about work that isn't financial. And do I enjoy, does this culture that I'm a part of, am I working in a culture that I enjoy? Does the firm have a vision that resonates with me? Is there good leadership here? Is there good accountability here? Do I think the likelihood is high that the group of leaders at this firm are actually going to solve the capacity problem, are actually going to invest in modern technology, are actually going to invest in upgrading talent in certain places, because for the last 5 years, we've been carrying talent that hasn't been A grade in every pocket of the firm. A young person, like when we get to know the young people and they get to know us, one of the things that they observe and see is, oh, my firm is going to get way better because of this partnership, and that's good for me.
We know how to catch up.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we see young people in our firms and also young people that we're recruiting into our firms. They're very smart. They understand what's going on in the industry, and they want to see leadership at firms that is doing something to be relevant in the future. And if you're in a Ascend supported firm, that is a guarantee that you're going to be relevant because we're making those investments. That's a really positive thing if you're thinking about a long career in public accounting.
And we hear that question all the time. One of the things I don't think firms, when we think, that only 50% of firms would be P ready, right? And I would think that you are even more stringent on your evaluation of firms that you might see. So I think one thing that firms aren't clear on is how do you evaluate, right? I mean, obviously there's a financial component, but we also already talked about bench strength is an important piece. So why don't you just share a little bit about when you're talking to a firm, what are you looking at and what's important to you? Because I think there is a total lack of any understanding about.
Yeah, go ahead, Nish.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, David. It definitely starts with people, and leadership is really important. Do you have an employee value proposition that resonates, and are there kind of multiple generations of folks who are lining up to be equity partner? That's always a really good sign. Are you located in a market where, organic growth potential exists and it's clear about how to go get it and there's opportunity that surrounds you? But, I would sort of synthesize a lot of that and say, sometimes with private equity, you hear this notion that there are targets that are handed down, revenue targets, EBITDA targets. We don't do that, but we are generating superior growth and superior economic returns that we're sharing with a lot of people inside of Ascend. So how is that possible? The reason it's possible is because we partner with firms that have a very high opinion of themselves and that have a very high opinion of their opportunity set. And part of what we do during the deal process, after the deal process, and during integration is we help sort of extract, articulate, formalize that opportunity set and that vision into an actionable plan that takes 1, 3, 5 years to manifest. And then we get in the boat with them and we help them achieve it. So where that set of circumstances exists tends to be a very good situation for us. And you sort of know it when you see it. You know it when you're talking to somebody that, views themselves in that way.
That's great. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything, David, but as you were saying that, I just thought, I don't want there to be any confusion amongst our listeners when they think about Ascend. You mentioned we're not private equity, we're private equity backed. So in that 3 to 5 year time frame where most private equity groups are getting ready to have some sort of flip or that proverbial second bite you mentioned, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 8 years from now, where are David and Nish?
Yeah, we're leading Ascend and we're continuing on. So I really appreciate you calling out the distinction. So when we raised private equity money, the first thing we did is we started building resources at Ascend. Ascend is an operating company in the public accounting industry. We're on Accounting Today's top 100 list. We're planning to be here forever. And what we tell firms is when you join Ascend, that relationship with Ascend will go on for decades. And that's very different from the typical private equity model where you got private equity coming directly into a firm. They're going to be there for some finite period of time, and then there's going to be a change in the investor base. And that change does create friction. Like you got to go find a new partner that's culturally aligned, you're aligned on the strategy and you get along and they get what you're about. Creates a lot of friction and risk that we don't have in our model. And furthermore, if you're taking private equity direct, the job that you are taking on, if you're the managing partner of that firm, is going to change a lot. Like one of the things that was kind of buzz in the hallways at PE Summit was, man, these private equity guys ask for a lot of information. I'm just like constantly sending them data and explaining our business to them and doing calls and meetings. And our firms don't deal with any of that. Like Nish and I in particular, and our CFO and some others, like we handle all of the stuff from private equity so that our firms can just focus on doing what they love, which is growing their people, growing their clients, growing their firms. What I would add to what Nish said is, the sweet spot for us is like a $20 to $30 million firm. And we have some that have been a little smaller and we have some that have been a little bigger, but that's a good sweet spot. And most of those firms are saying, we think we can be a $100 million firm. But how are we going to get there? If you're trying to do that on your own, that's a lot of investment that you have to make. You take on a lot of risks to do that. You got to believe you got to like produce the money to go make all those investments. Then you also have to deploy the money. So you got to figure out how you're going to attract the talent you need to go do that. And that, that's difficult for anybody. And we're trying to make it as easy as we can.
On their own, most CPA firms to that statement are going to say, ouch.
For sure.
Because that
And
partnership
the other
model is
thing
coming
that's like,
it's coming right out of my pocket. I got to make less in order to make those investments.
Ascend has close to 70 people who all they do is build and provide resources to our firms to help them on that journey. Like they wake up every day and they just do that all day, every week, every month, all year long. That is a tremendous amount of resources for a firm to plug into. In a typical private equity transaction, like they definitely, like private equity is smart. They have good ideas. They're going to be able, they've got networks. There are going to be some ways in which they could be helpful, but it's not like people grabbing an oar to row with you. And we have a lot of those people, a lot of rowers.
Well, that's great. Why don't you share a little bit also? And I know part of this story, and Phil knows part of this story, but I think our audience doesn't. Talk about the recruiting, talking about a little bit about the business development. I know those are areas of strength, right? And again, shared throughout the network. So why don't you share a little bit about those or any other areas that you've really had a big impact in solving problems for your firm?
A lot of firms come for the talent and the technology, and then they stay for a lot of other things that we provide for them. But you guys know, like for years, the top problems for everyone is talent, technology, talent, technology. So on the talent side, we developed a view that a lot of the reason why firms didn't have as much great talent as they wanted wasn't because there wasn't great talent out there. It's because they didn't have a focused effort on it. They didn't have professionals working on it, and they did not have an irresistible offer to make to the talent markets. And so we came in and built a talent acquisition function that fixed all those things. We have over 10 people that this is all they do all day long. They're professionals from other industries. They're really good at their craft. And the Ascend model of everything, we have an independence plus resources model. We preserve the independence of the local regional firm. And there's a lot about those types of firms that people like. Better cultures, work-life balance. They know their clients more intimately, so variety in the work and so on. But we are also now a scaled enterprise, so we can provide the resources of a larger firm. We also are offering modernized economics to people well before they become a partner in their firm. So that is an offer that we bring to the talent markets. I won't go into all the statistics, but it's just been enormously successful. We hired almost 200 people, lateral hires for our firms in 2024. We also, in 2023, bought a firm called Sentient Solutions that had over 100 people in India that were doing tax audit and CAS. And it is just so, when you're growing, it is so much better to have a captive than to be a customer of an offshore firm. And every $20 to $40 million firm we know practically has come to the realization that they need to be good at offshore global fulfillment, but they just can't figure it out. It's like, I tried one vendor and it didn't work. And then this other one, we had whatever problems. So they end up just dabbling. We went out and bought a company. We refreshed the management team. We invested in it. We moved them into an amazing location in Hyderabad. And we created an easy process for people to plug in and make it work. So we're going to do close to 15% of our hours in 2025 offshore, compared to a typical firm that joins, they're doing about 0% of their hours that way. So between offshore and onshore talent acquisition, our firm's number one problem is no longer capacity. It is new business. And so they're out now with their, cups catching all the clients that are falling from the sky, finally able to, it's really a paradigm shift for the last few years for them. On the technology side, there's some like table stakes things that you got to do in technology, but what everyone really means when they say we want help with technology is, gosh, things are moving fast. And gosh, there's got to be a better way to do this work that we are doing. And when you really look hard at the problem, technology has to be a part of the solution. And that's a well-acknowledged fact in public accounting. But if you are a smaller firm, you have a lot of problems on the road to deploying good technology. The first is you got to have a group of partners that decides you're going to cough up the money to make the investment. Then you got to have a team of people that is capable of tracking all of the available solutions that are out there. No easy task. If you can pick some products, now you need a technology team to implement and integrate all of those technology solutions. And if you've gotten this far, now you need a learning and development capability that allows you to actually teach everyone new workflows in your firm. So like, it's a huge barrier if you're even a really good medium-sized firm. And Ascend being a top 30 firm, and our goal is to be a top 20 firm, we have the resources to like make all of those problems go away. Like, we have the money to spend, we have the people to choose the products, we have the people to build the products, we have the people to integrate them, and the people to train folks on new workflows. So we are going all in on technology, and fully intend for that to be a winner for us.
You know, it's pretty impressive. I've heard a couple of key words here today. I've heard the word forever. Ascend is going to be here forever. I've heard irresistible offers, you know, obviously acquiring that talent. And I love that terminology, irresistible offers, preservation of the independence. And obviously, as it relates to the tech stack, and tech is really, it's coming like a tidal wave, and there's so many things out there. And yes, it's too challenging for the typical small to mid-sized firm to make the right determination, because, you know, they pick something and the day after they pick something, they learn about something else that was out there that's better. And you know what, having, you know, those 70 to 80 people that are dedicated to helping your firm. I mean, shoot, that number of people and professionals that you have on your team are probably larger than some of the sizes of the firms that are out there that are going to join you. The people that are there to support you. You know, David, it doesn't surprise me that, you know, number one, with the amazing team you assembled, you know, including Nish and Erin and some of those other folks that I've had an opportunity to meet, that you've become a top 30 firm. As you said, your goal to be a top 20 firm. I mean, you guys, you're just, to use a WTA word or that we use all the time, you guys are just crushing it, crushing. So, you know, kudos to you guys and congrats. Now I'll let my partner David chat.
So I was going to just wrap up and first of all, feel very similar. You guys are crushing it. And so, you know, tell us what you see as the future of the industry, right? So let's go past just, you know, you're 17 and now continue to grow firms. But if we go, and maybe for you, 7 or 8 years, other people, we might have said 3 or 4 years. But if we go into the future, how do you think this world's going to change as well?
I think that I think it's pretty obvious where the industry is headed. I think the question is more who's there when the future gets here. What everyone kind of understands is there's going to be a lot more demand and a lot fewer people to do it, and the technology is going to be amazing, and global fulfillment is going to be a part of the story, and they're going to be a lot more large firms, and we're going to be reimagining what it means to be the trusted advisor to our clients. And all of that is very well covered, you know, by the consultants, by the trade publications that are out there, conferences that you can go to. The industry really has, I think, a really good grip on what the future could be like. The question in my mind is less so what is the future, but who is there? And I just think the gap between the haves and the have-nots is going to become enormous. The have-nots are very likely to be left behind if they exist at all, you know, if you take a long enough time horizon. And I'm not saying that all of the haves are private equity-backed businesses. I don't believe that. I think the haves are just the people who decide we are going to invest, we are going to reinvent ourselves, we are going to grow, we are going to innovate while keeping service levels and quality high, which is a really big theme of importance for us at Ascend. Those firms are going to have some golden years up ahead, I think.
Nish, anything you want to add?
I think that's really well said. The only thing I would add, I like the haves and the have-nots, and I would just add, if you're not sure which camp you sit in, you should be asking how. And if you're a managing partner, if you serve on an executive committee, if you're a young partner that's really trying to underwrite your future in this profession, how? It's a really, really important question. The deeper dialogue, the deeper thinking that you do on that question, the more clarity with which you're going to see the future and the more clear your opportunity set.
Awesome. Well, On behalf of Phil and myself, just want to thank David and Nish from Ascend. If you have any comments, questions, leave them below. We'll get to them. And we're here to educate you. And this was just awesome. And you guys are crushing it as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was really fun.
Thank you for tuning into Everything CPA and Private Equity. Every episode brings fresh insight. However, there's always more to talk about. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you watch podcasts. Have a question or topic you'd like us to cover? We'd love for you to reach out to us. Together, we will help you navigate this dynamic landscape so that we can help you achieve your goals. Until next time, keep making moves that matter. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.